Alright, hello everybody and welcome to my presentation. My name is Austin Ginyadik. This presentation is for supporting English language learners, or EDO 350. And this is language. It does a body good. Alright, so let's start off by discussing what is language. I have it bulleted here. It's a means to an end, sign and symbol system, mutually understood, and a method of communication. It's essentially what makes us human. So why do I say it's a means to an end? Well, because it is what we do to communicate our wants, needs, feelings, and opinions. It's what we use. It's the form of communication that we use in order to, express ourselves as people. It's this verbal expression of who we are. It's the way that we mutually decided, that we are going to understand one another. This video just breaks down what language is. It goes into the things like linguistics, grammar, syntax, phonology, things like those. And it really helps to describe in great detail what language is and the very vast and various components of language. So what are first and second language development? Well, the first language development here I have that we begin by babbling. Our parents provide us with practice, then we scaffold into sentences, and then we go on to grammar. We do start as babies, with the goo goo gagas and the nonsensical babblings, and then we start hearing words from typically our parents or other people around us, and then we repeat those, and we learn words, and then we scaffold them into sentences. So we start combining the words into things that make a coherent thought, and then in school and whatnot we start learning the mechanics and the grammar about our language. The second language, on the other hand, it is typically learned independently of the first language. And in this case, you would have to start strong, start with a good foundation, a good first language that you know very well. And research shows that having a good first language really helps for you to learn a second language. After that, you live, learn, listen, and repeat. And, you really immerse yourself and get the application portion. You have to take control of your learning at this point and really apply yourself in order to learn the language. Practice is a process. Learning a second language is a process. It is something that just doesn't happen overnight, and you need to apply yourself to that. And it has to be initially intentional. Just by saying, "Oh, I want to learn another language," and you just immerse yourself in the culture, in the country, in the language, that's not going to help you learn a language. You have to really take control of your learning and be active about learning. Alright, so learning versus acquisition. So learning is an intentional and conscious process. It's active and engaged. Learning has to do with direct and explicit instructions. It's like a teaching situation. It is a thoughtful and structured process. So, for example, if you sign up for a pottery class, you're going to go to that class with the intention of learning how to make pottery. This is a conscious decision that you've made, and you are going to be active in learning how to do this. You're not under any other impression that you're going for anything other than what you signed up for. Acquisition, on the other hand, is a little bit more subconscious. It's not fully active. It's very individual-led a lot of the time, or learner-led. It's experimental, kind of unstructured, and I really like the phrase for it, serendipitous learning. So it's like accidental or by chance that you're learning this. It's something that you just kind of happen upon. Going back to the pottery example, say instead of signing up for a pottery class, you found a wheel at your grandma's house or something, and then you look up a video about somebody throwing clay, and you make observations and you start mimicking their hand movements, and in order to manipulate the clay, and you just pick it up the techniques through observation and everything. You're not doing it because anybody told you to, but you happened upon a situation in which you were able to start learning these things. So that's more acquisition, because you're kind of just acquiring the knowledge from your surroundings at that point. Both learning and acquisition have a lot to do with one's ability to obtain knowledge, no matter how it's done, whether conscious or subconscious. There are 5 stages of learning acquisition: silent, receptive, early production, speech emergence, intermediate fluency, and continued language and development. So in the silent receptive stage, somebody might, the non-native speaker would be, quiet and just taking in the environment, not very confident in speech. Early production is, limited vocabulary, but you're starting to say words, identify objects, stuff like that. Speech emergence, you have, putting together sentences, putting together the words you've learned in order to form coherent thoughts. And then on to intermediate fluency, where you can communicate socially, especially, and interact and express yourself in that language through the vocabulary that you have. And continue to learn language development and advanced fluency. This happens over a 2 to 10 year span, in which you start putting that vocabulary to use. There's a lot of practice, and everything just becomes a lot smoother. All right, so what does it mean to be a bilingual? Well, being bilingual occurs when an individual knows 2 languages fluently. And to know a language, quote, fluently, it's based on the ability, your ability to talk, write, listen, and read in that language. So if you can do those proficiently. There's 3 types of bilinguals: compound, coordinate, and subordinate, and these all have to do with the differentiation of time, space, and the way that you learn the second language. So there is a lot of research that shows that being a bilingual increases your ability to learn by increasing the plasticity of the brain, which makes it easier for you to absorb information. Knowing 2 languages is like a workout for your brain. The gray matter of bilingual brains is higher, which makes it healthier and more actively engaged. Research shows that knowing 2 or more languages makes a person a better problem solver, increases reaction time, and aids in task switching. There are sometimes complications of being a bilingual or starting to become a bilingual. There can be discomfort for the person if they are not the native speaker of the language and they are immersed in that culture. There's a lot of times, especially with ELL students, occurs the silent period, where the student or person is not comfortable speaking out and they remain silent because they're not proficient or confident, or they don't understand the language well enough to engage and speak it on their own. This silent period, it can last any given amount of time. There's really no set time for it, and in a school setting, teachers should be empathetic and prompt the student without overwhelming them, and maybe take time to learn words in their language to show that we're trying, so you too can try as well. As far as teachers knowing a second language, teachers don't have to be bilingual. School personnel do not have to know 2 languages. It's kind of hard to say that they do, because you never know what other language you're going to encounter in a school setting, and there's no way to be fully prepared for that. So while you don't have to know a separate language, being empathetic towards that situation and understanding that learning a second language can really be overwhelming for a student at times, that'll make you a better teacher, and it'll make you more relatable to that student and help them have a better time transitioning. As for the theory of human language development, I'm going off of 2, actually, the language acquisition device and social interactionist learning theory. I kind of feel like these go hand in hand with each other in a certain type of way. I like this whole idea of not nature versus nurture, but nature and nurture. And I think when it comes to language, that these things work together really well in order to create, our ability to learn. So with the language acquisition theory, it states that we are born with the ability to know language. It's biological, and that we are hardwired to pick up a language. It's like saying that we have a predisposition to learn a language. Um, our brains want to pick up and make these sounds. Now, the social interactionist theory, um, it's more like the nurture side. So it's saying like our environment and our social situation helps us become a better or better at learning a language, and it's the reason that we want to learn a language is because we want to interact with our fellow people. So I think this is like the nature side of it and the nurture side of it that kind of work together in order to um, help us to learn language and be good at learning language. Here's a video on the acquisition theory. I felt like the language acquisition theory was a little bit harder to understand, and so um, here's a video breaking down and explaining exactly what that means and what that looks like. All right, so in conclusion, language is very vast, and becoming teachers, we have to respect that and know that there are students we're going to have to encounter that we'll have to work with on language. We develop our first language different from our second language. There are health benefits to learning a second language. Bilinguals have some serious advantages because it helps them learn. And language, in a sense, can come naturally to us, and our environment really helps to facilitate and grow that ability to learn language. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.